So everybody hit the like, share, subscribe button. Thank you for watching on Rockfin and Facebook Live. And of course, the good people at the CIA Tube. Share this out on your social media. And we've got an exciting show today of GovSeeks, everybody. Hope everybody's safe. Those of you, oh man, I know there's been a lot of hurricanes and floods. I hope everybody on the East Coast is all right, or the Northeast specifically. Let us bring Lee Camp on the show, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, what's up?
How you doing, buddy?
Good. I've never heard, talking into the CIA tube said in a Bob Ross voice like you were doing at the beginning here. The good people at CIA tube. And
hey, everybody over at CIA Tube. Thank you for throttling free speech and crushing the advancement of the human race. Here's a little Van Dyke Brown.
Just enjoying a little radioactive wind through my hair as we get going here.
My perm is actually from all the fracking explosions that we've had. So just want to paint that down for everybody. It makes sense because
we'll just put a little lake lapping at the shore here, some dead babies floating in the water, maybe just a little bit of plastic killing a porpoise.
And here is infrastructure crumbling through flooding, and we're going to paint that in there real nice. And
I did like that Biden put a lot of money into the infrastructure plan to rebuild our collapsing bridges. And now I finally figured it out. That's to house the people that will soon be evicted. So you gotta have some good bridges to live under.
It's kind of great foresight. I think he's going to buy everybody tents. That's probably figured into this infrastructure plan as here's some tents and, canned food. Because they were able to get all of the MREs out of Afghanistan, but so they ended up leaving all the weapons for the Taliban, but at least they got the dried food for the soldiers. So they're going to give
They got the MREs out, not the MR apps.
Yeah. Not the MRAPs. It is. I got to tell you,
just the meals ready to eat,
just the meals ready to eat. Those are ready. Those we got plenty of. And that's the good big part of the infrastructure bill is here's some meals ready to eat, not a job, not healthcare, not housing, but just really good. That's what America does best. Temporary Band-Aids. But yeah, it's been, I got to say, how's your week been going?
It's been good. I've been collecting all the abortions I can get for right now, because I know they won't be around for long. So I'm getting a bunch. I got 3 this week.
I love listening to liberals are still now we're blaming Susan Sarandon and Jill Stein. Right. That's when Hillary picked Tim Kaine, who was an anti-abortion Democrat, that's not bad.
Yep.
But Jill Stein, who is pro-choice, she was the problem.
Absolutely.
It. God, I love liberals. They're just so great. They have a special kind of stupid. The conservatives are just dumb and they're American flag wrapped.
There's so many levels that this is the fault of the Democratic establishment and not fucking, Jill Stein or Susan Sarandon or whatever the fuck they want to say. Joe Biden himself really got Clarence Thomas onto the Supreme Court by torpedoing the, Anita Hill's testimony and that hearing, which Joe Biden was running at the time. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, if she gave a fucking ounce about a Democrat selecting her replacement, should have been like, oh, I'm really ancient. I should step down under Obama rather than wait and see what the fuck happens after Obama. And so, yeah, that's on her. It's the Democrats and the Democratic establishment that put us here. And let's not forget that the Supreme Court is a fucking ridiculous, undemocratic, oligarchic shit show. So let's start there.
Yeah, and it definitely blames Susan Sarandon. Definitely a Hollywood actress has way more power than the Democratic Party's billions of dollars.
I thought she was an honorary member of the Supreme Court, no?
Yes, she's an honorary member of the Supreme Court. I mean, if you have evidence that Susan Sarandon told Ruth Bader Ginsburg to not step down under Obama, then maybe there's something for us to discuss. But I don't think that happened, Lee.
Also, the Democrats have been standing by and supporting, like you said, Tim Kaine amongst them, supporting anti-choice, anti-women Democrats for fucking years and years. So they stand by as Roe v. Wade is gutted, and then, you know, a further kind of nail in the coffin gutting goes down this week. You know, to mix my metaphors, I don't know if you put a nail in a coffin of gutting, but that goes down this week. And then they go, oh, it's, you know, see, it was the Supreme Court. It's like, you've been standing there allowing the gutting of Roe v. Wade for fucking ever.
Yes. Pelosi's backed 3 years ago. She endorsed an anti-abortion candidate. I mean, and now she's going to sit there and go, we won't stand for these Republican shenanigans. Like, it's anything to keep us distracted from how the 1% is crushing us. Like, just, it's unbelievable. And, you know, if you live in Texas, you know, you might want to organize a protest and
Texas, and apparently there's 22 states where laws similar to that or like that, you know, have either gone through or are going through or working their way through the legislatures. So there's 22 states that are trying to mimic this insanity that Texas has created, where you can sue people who drive someone to get an abortion. And also 6 weeks is laughable because many women don't even know they're pregnant until after 6 weeks. So yeah, it's a ridiculous draconian we rule over women's bodies law, and it's in 22 states they're pushing it through.
Well, I saw a piece of good news actually on TikTok that lifted my spirit. So the Texas put up this website on how to report people that are, you know, and so all these people flooded the website and crashed the site, and they sent photos of like you know, birds pushing eggs out of the nest and reporting that and all this. Which is just like, I love that kind of shit. Like, get as subversive as you can with these assholes and show them how ridiculous they are.
That's amazing.
Because if you honestly think you're going to, like, the Democratic Party has created this problem, it's mind numbing to me.
Or often like a male hippo will just like eat his son so he doesn't have to like deal with competition. So send those photos. Send those photos of the hippo killing his son to them.
Female dolphins sleep with have sex with numerous male dolphins, because if a male dolphin thinks the kid isn't his, he's going to kill him. So I don't know. Maybe that's a different crime to report, but definitely.
No. I report all animal crimes to the Texas.
Please, that's the point of the show, folks. Report animal crimes that are happening. You see a cat attacking a bird, that is assault, and we won't stand for it anymore. So
I believe it's ducks. I think they're geese or something. They have like a second vagina hole, so they allow, when they're being raped, they allow the duck penis to go into the rape hole that doesn't actually connect to anything. So first of all, I think human women should probably develop that. But secondly, let's report those crimes.
Is that for real?
Yeah.
Animals are fucking evil. Jesus Christ. I mean,
they're brilliant, man. The female ducks were like, you know what? I've had enough. I'm just going to hook up a fake hole, a falsie. And it's genius. Graham, why are you anti-women? Anti-female duck.
I am. This is a really, I need to stop. Hashtag duck me too. This is, wow. I didn't know we were going to talk about this at the top of the show, to be quite honest with you.
I probably should have prepped you. There should be some trigger warnings for Graham. I should call him before the show starts.
Oh, well, another great day in America, Lee Camp. So this is,
I'll tell you what is going to be a great day is September 18th when we come to Los Angeles.
Boy, Lee, that is a fantastic marketing segue. I love a good, speaking of reporting animals for crimes, report the crime of coming to see a great comedy show at the Dynasty.
The crime of hilarity.
we're not aborting a funny comedy show September 18th at the Dynasty Typewriter. It's an afternoon show, folks. Check it out. As many of you know, but I should, Ron Placone and I had to cancel our entire October tour, but we still are doing 3 dates. So I will be doing 4 shows in California, one with Lee on the 18th. Ron and I are doing September 11th in San Francisco, the 12th in Sacramento, and the 15th at Flappers in Burbank. And then our Government Secret show, the 18th in LA. So go to grahamelwood.com for all those tour dates. And please report animal crimes.
None of which will be committed at that show, although that is part of my act. I've had to put on hiatus for now, the animal abuse segment. But yeah, that show, we're going to stick mainly to talking at that show.
My government secret for the LA show is going to be all the hidden animal crimes that the government has covered up. That's what mine's going to be. And start an animal crime.
You'd actually probably get some fucking good ones.
Oh,
actually,
God.
We did one about the where they sewed the walkie-talkie inside the cat and released it into Moscow or whatever.
Oh, God. I shouldn't have said that, because now there probably is legitimate, horrible things the government did to animals to try to find out what Khrushchev sleeps with or whatever. So, yeah. All right. We're not going to do that. But so it has been, it's been a fun week of canceling tours and watching bases that I performed at in Afghanistan get run over by the Taliban with brand new American military grade equipment. It has been a fantastic week. So come out to the comedy shows, folks, if you're in
Do
California.
you think they're going to vandalize the wall that you signed, where all the comedians sign at the base?
I honestly, that did cross my mind. There is this hut at Bagram. It's called the Entertainers Bee Hut. And it was all of our photos all up on the wall.
Oh, dude, there's a cock drawn on your photo right now, man.
Like literally just like infidel. And then I'm like sucking a dick or whatever. Like I would love that. If that's what they did to that, it's just, I mean, there's like NFL players and cheerleaders and like Gary Sinise and all these, I really hope that it's that. And if you are in Bagram, if there's
watch them do one of their press conferences where they say, you know, we're going to kill all the infidels, and behind you just see Graham's headshot just on the wall behind him, the big dick and balls drawn on it. just infidel arrow. I'm with infidel, and there's like an arrow pointing to me or whatever. Yeah, that's how that's going to shake out. So, all right, let's get into our, ladies and gentlemen, it's Government Secrets, episode 54. We got some good shit this episode. Second half, we're going to get into government secrets about hurricanes in New Orleans. And I promise that there'll be something in this that fucking no one knows. And probably no one knows any of it because it's mind-blowing.
I think there should, and I don't want to know this, but we should set up some sort of DraftKings betting site where people can like over under the time code where I like lose hope. You know what I mean? Like where you said where.
So for anyone who guessed 3 minutes, you win this week. You win. When Lee brought up duck rape, that was, I think, 2 minutes and 30 seconds in, and that would be the winner this week.
But usually, yeah. And then there should be like separate betting, like Vegas, how, you know, you can bet on everything. Like which point of Lee's segment is Graham going to just like give up or quit or want to leave or where is that going to?
I'll have you know, apparently I have this effect on many people. I was unaware that I did because I was on your friend's podcast, Dave Anthony's West Wing thing. And I was about 10 minutes in, I'd say 12 minutes or something. And Josh Olson just goes, I'm too depressed to go on.
It's first of all, Dave Anthony's been on the show before. He's been on Political Vigilante. So, and listen to his West Wing podcast. We were all sort of brainwashed by West Wing at the time when I was watching it 20 years ago. I was like, oh man, this show, that's doing good. And the show, and you will go back now and it's like, oh, it fed a whole generation of people the notion that incremental centrism is effective governance. Like it's just unbelievable.
Incremental centrism. The United States never tries to do anything wrong. Sometimes we'll accidentally cause some bad things to happen, but we'll never just intentionally destroy or disrupt a country. It's all like just good guys trying to help people, but they just can't seem to figure it out.
Yeah, it's always that. Like we always whoops, tripped and fell into a coup or whatever. Like it's always like zoinks. Like how did this happen? Like, I want to talk about the CIA's failed mission in Angola. Come on.
I was thinking it was about time you hit the CIA, Graham, because you've been such a fan, and I was waiting for you finally to let that loose and double. Really hit them hard.
I should start a CIA fan club called Operation Roulette. That's what we're going to call it. I'll give people a little backdrop on what Angola was part of several countries that were Portuguese colonies. So when Portugal, like all those fine European countries, was running around the world in the 17 and 1800s, ruining indigenous people's lives.
As you do
When you're a European capitalist country run by bloodthirsty oligarchs, so that's why, just a quick, so the Spanish did it, the Portuguese did it, obviously, just about everybody did it. It's why they speak Portuguese in Brazil while the rest of Central and South America speak Spanish. So Angola was one of these countries that was it was a Portuguese colony, and in the 73, maybe even been 75, they got freedom and to run their own country their own way, and a Marxist government came in. And Lee, so that's that. First of all, don't build your country above oil that America needs. That's your first mistake. And second, don't ever have a Marxist or socialist government. That is a no-no, because America
which if you get into the details, don't provide education and housing for everybody. That's
no. Yeah. And if you take your natural resources and sell them and equally distribute the profits amongst your citizens to have all your citizens' needs taken care of, now you're double fucked. Now we are really going to come at you, and the CIA is going to come at you with two duck dildos to find both holes. They don't give a shit. They're coming at you hard when you do that.
Find both holes. Listen, folks, they're after both holes. All right. I want to make this clear. I got an alert on my phone. This time they're after both holes.
So again, and I went to Operation. Well, first I found two articles. The first one was this by Living the American Dream. So I'll just go into what kind of happened. Once again, in the early 70s, United States was heavily engaged. First of all, so we went into this thing. Bear in mind now, we're already in Vietnam. We're already speaking of long drawn out wars we shouldn't have been in. We're in Vietnam trying to dispose, again, a communist Marxist government. Of course, if you watch the movie Fog of War, Ho Chi Minh came to America in the late 40s, read our Constitution and our Bill of Rights, and said, oh, I want to get my country back to the Vietnamese people and out from underneath French colonization. And he incorrectly thought that after reading these documents, the United States would be on his side. That was
made the classic mistake of thinking we meant that shit. Dumb idea.
Don't ever do that with America. There's a bunch of Afghanis who are learning that lesson hard. We don't our promises mean nothing. And so this was the Vietnam War was becoming more and more unpopular in the early 70s, obviously. And
Why was that? Was that because the MREs were not as good back then, or what was it that was unpopular?
God, I don't know. I can't really remember. It wasn't talked about a lot. It's yeah, once again, spent wasting money, just wasting resources, people's lives, just blowing up, all this awful crap.
Was it the sending thousands of men who didn't want to be in the military or in battle out to just indiscriminately kill people? Was that it, or was it the MREs, the meals?
I think it was well, back then it was C rations.
Okay. Yeah.
So during this Vietnamese conflict, by the way, the U.S. played an influential role in expanding the heroin trade in this region of the world. And politically, it was unclear that a military or political victory would have been achieved. Americans, by 1975, having suffered a loss of prestige, waned on their hunger for perpetual war. So when this happened, so this is the country of Portugal had been fighting a colonial war in the colony of Angola from 61 to 74. In 74, in April 24th, 1975, a revolution occurred in the Portuguese capital. The Carnation Revolution in Lisbon was led by left-leaning military populists who ousted the old person. In October 75, William G. Halen, head of the U.S. Department of Intelligence and Research, reported the United States intelligence community. The United States did not know about the political coup that happened in Portugal. Contradictory to Highland's testimony, the United States Central Intelligence Agency was suspected of being involved in the military coup to overthrow Novo.
What?
Isn't it great when the CIA is doing stuff that the U.S. government doesn't know about? Like that doesn't pose a problem, does it, Lee?
It's almost like the CIA went rogue at some point. I don't know if you've gotten that feeling.
I mean, what do you mean by rogue? Just like thinking for themselves, or
like unaccountable to anyone and anything that is elected. I get that our democratic republic is gone, shattered, and scattered to the wind, but if you were to believe it was a thing, you would think that probably someone elected would have to have control and oversight over the CIA. But that seems to be not so much.
Huh. It's almost like they either pay off or threaten every politician so that they get whatever they want. I don't know. I'm just picking stuff out of the air.
Yeah. So, or you know, for the politician who said he was going to destroy them, they would take him out.
Be careful what you say. It's disputable.
Yeah, I'm gonna get. Can they do worse than demonetizing you? They're gonna super demonetize you. You're gonna owe them money.
Yeah, they're gonna just send me a bill. This is our service. You
talked about JFK again. Send us $20.
Yeah, every time you say JFK, you got to pay us $20. You've actually said that and Epstein 1,000 times. So now here's a bill for 20 grand. So the civil war in Angola, here's what happened. So the civil war in Angola immediately began following its decree for independence from Portugal in November of 1975. While three powers had fought in Angola's war for liberation and negotiated for its independence on November 11, 1975, the civil war was dominated by two strong political movements, which lasted until 2002. Various ceasefire agreements throughout the 27-year conflict failed to secure the peace for the average Angolan. The two factors were the People's Movement for Liberation of Angola, MPLA, and the National Union of Total Independence of Angola, UNIT. Both these factions were described as left of center in their politics, with UNITA having a stronger anti-communist sentiment. Gee, I wonder which one we backed. The U.S. took an interest in the short third rail, the National Liberation Front of Angola, or the FNLA. John Stackwell, the CIA station chief on Operation Feature, the mission to Angola, noted when Bill Colby went to brief the National Security Council for the first time on this, his briefing was literally, gentlemen, here is a map of Angola. Now in Angola, we have three factions. There's the MPLA, there's the bad guys, the FNLA, they're the good guys, and there is United. That's how he did it. He just said,
Dude, that shit hasn't changed, man. There are memos from Donald Rumsfeld during the war in Afghanistan, literally that say, "I'm not clear on who the bad guys are."
Yes.
Like, these are the ones who're supposed to know their shit, and they're still talking about the bad guys.
Well, yeah, and it's still this like, and that's all you need to just keep never-ending war going. We just need a bad guy. We just need a bad guy. And it's the same thing that we do, as you and I have discussed before with our domestic policy and all the money spent on local police departments. There's always a bad guy. There's immigrants, there's gangs, there's whatever. They're coming for you.
Crime is going up even when the numbers show that it's going down dramatically.
Yes. Crime's up. What is it? Well, yeah, because we're going to take the one bad crime a month and run it that whole month and make it seem like it's happening every day. But we won't talk about the 100 shootings a day. That's a separate issue.
Yeah.
So then there was that. Operation Feature was just the overall operation for Angola. But then we had a specific Operation Savannah, was the South African code name for the military incursion into Angola in 1975 and 76. It was part of the South African Border War and arose due to the Angolan War of Independence. The operation also materially influenced the subsequent Angolan Civil War. South Africa forces invaded deep into Angola with the objective of driving the MPLA, Soviet and Cuban forces out. So the Soviets and the Cubans were backing the MPLA. So then we had to get in. Angola, so it's just,
yeah, it's like a party where your arch nemesis is invited, and so you're like, now I have to go if he's there.
Yeah, like your ex is going to be there, so you're going to show up with your new, partner,
and act like you don't even care.
You don't even care, but you tell your partner to wear really hot, sexy outfits. So South Africa, as well as UNITA and FNLA, had been receiving material and tacit support of the United States as part of their Cold War opposition to the Soviet Union, which emboldened them to pursue this incursion. South African and United fortunes were overturned, and their forces were compelled to withdraw due to MPLA, Cuban, and Soviet pressure. Victory was claimed by the MPLA, who were actively supported by Cuba and the Soviet Union over the combined forces of UNITA, FNLA, Zaire, and South Africa. For the MPLA, the victory was essential for the proclamation of independence and subsequent political control. So it's just another, we tried it, it didn't work, and we left. And I think the one saving grace was because we had just come out of Vietnam, it was like, we can't get into another protracted thing. Which that's gone now. Absolutely.
There was a time in America's history where the public had become wary of war enough so that the politicians literally felt a need to stay out of wars, but for the most part, but not economic war, but just straight up war. And now they have completely gone past that. And part of getting past that was, using the threat of terrorism to invade so many countries, using the threat of Russia to say we have to be in these places. When there was a threat that Trump might pull us out of Afghanistan, they used the threat of Russian bounties to keep us there. So it's like that kind of shit has gone on for a long time, and most of America gone for it hook, line, and sinker.
Well, one of the reasons they go for it hook, line, and sinker is back in the 70s, we didn't have complete corporate control of the media. So there was actually still some journalism happening. You had people calling out that you had the Pentagon Papers. So if we had that same type of media in the 70s, and I'm not saying it was perfect, but at least was way more independent. When the Afghanistan Papers came out 2 years ago, we would still be talking about it because that's what happened with the Pentagon Papers. That's what happened with Watergate. We kept talking about it because we saw the bigger implications of it. And now it's just like, this bad thing happened, boy. Anyway, this celebrity.
It wasn't 100% owned by the oligarchy in the same way that it is now. Journalists had some degree of freedom. They wouldn't be fired if they did one story that was outside of what was the allowable talking points. And there was a concerted effort. I know I've said this before. I really have to do it, but we should do a segment on the PAL memo and the Trilateral Commission, which basically said in the 70s, these were powerful people came together and said, why can't we rule with just a small group of people rather than this whole Americans having their voices heard bullshit? And they came to several conclusions, but one of them was we need the media to get in line. And
yes,
now they've succeeded.
They've got it. I mean, the Afghanistan papers, I mean, literally the media should have been screaming about this, which would have gotten all of most Americans to go, what? And we would have been out a while ago. I mean,
yeah. And it got like one day, like I remember, because I remember that day and I had the TVs on seeing, like, I remember reading the Afghanistan papers in the Washington Post and being like, wow, they actually did some legit journalism. Yes, it was 10 years too late on this issue, but at least they did it finally. And you saw one day of like CNN, MSNBC covering it. And the fact that the Afghanistan papers was even printed at all by the Washington Post really had to do with it was a useful time to harm the presidency. They were hoping it would harm Trump. If Biden or someone had been, or even just a regular Republican like a George W. Bush had been in office, they probably wouldn't have published it.
And the other thing that's even more appalling is in this last 2 weeks of our pulling out and the collapse of Afghanistan, I haven't heard anyone in the mainstream media talk about the Afghanistan papers. I haven't heard anybody say, this is a disaster. Could Biden have handled this pullout better? Sure. But we've known they've never like referenced the Afghanistan papers and go, well, we know from the Afghanistan papers that we've been wasting money and nobody knew what they were doing for 15, 20 years now. So this isn't shocking that it's collapsing like this because nobody knows what the hell's going on and we've wasted trillions of dollars. They don't even refer to it in the discussion of how this has been handled. Like,
but Graham, I did.
Yeah, you did.
Does that count? I'm
sure.
I'm totally as big as CNN. I've done 2 weeks on it, but yeah, I part of the reason I've done it is because they fucking won't.
Yeah, and then that's why. And again, going back to this control, and your channel is completely suppressed. It's not even like your show specifically, Lee, should have a couple million followers. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I'm not saying that.
And thank you for the compliment, but I watched it happen. We under the first Bernie run in 2016 was when Redacted Tonight really caught on, and we were seeing 100 to 200,000 views on an episode. And following that election, it just fucking tanked. Like, not a tanking of like, oh, people stopped liking what I was doing and they trickled away. It was like YouTube deciding this is done now. And, now we get scraps, whatever.
They decided it was done. It wasn't like, oh, your audience found something else to watch or whatever. You got a face tattoo and put a swastika up there like George Manson or whatever. It was like, it was
Charles Manson.
Charles. Whatever. Anyway.
George Manson was his creepy brother, his younger brother, really not a good guy, but he was just more into like harming pigeons and things. So he's less talked about. George Manson.
I'm actually thinking of the Hollywood actor George Mason. That's right. Well, I can't even do a George Mason impression. I don't know what I'm trying to do. Anyway, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But no, that's like, so even if a show like yours was just allowed to be itself and let the algorithm work the way it's supposed to work, people would find you. People would have, especially since 2016, now you would have like the biggest show out there, and everybody, especially younger people, be like, man, you watch John Oliver, you watch these. Nope, I'm done. I watch.
You watch the State Department stenographers.
Yeah. And your show would have millions of subscribers. I would have probably at least 300,000-400,000 subscribers on YouTube. Instead, I'm stuck at 78,000 or whatever they were. And I'm, barely getting by, but thank God Ethereum's at $3,900. So anyway, that's,
oh, and they're working on ways to crush that too, my friend. So
they can't, so they're going to try to profit from it and regulate it. That's what they're going to do. They can't crush it, so they're going to like, oh, well, let's just profit from this. Like,
yeah.
Anyway, let's go to government secrets. Second segment, Lee Camp with a second segment. All
right, the second segment is just one headline. For those of you listening at home, it's an article from New Scientist. Female ducks fight back against raping males. So,
how did you find that? And thank you. I'm hoping somebody just sent that to you while we were doing the show.
No, I Googled it, but be careful if you Google duck raping males, because it'll be a lot of tactics for how to poke the guy in the eye and then pepper spray him in the balls.
Okay.
All right. So now we'll get to Government Secret Segment 3.
Government Secrets third segment.
All right. So another hurricane has just hit New Orleans. It's also flooding the Northeast right now, but New Orleans is with the entire city of New Orleans is without power, and might be for like a month. Like it's looking horrible. And so I figured good time to get into a government secret about the last hurricane that destroyed New Orleans, Hurricane Katrina. Not sure if you heard of it. Many people have.
I think this is where the government secretly helped everybody, right? Is this the...
Yeah, top secret Project Help people.
They paid for Tom Penn or Sean Penn's fishing boat to go through there. That was the extent of their help for the people.
That's right. They paid him $2.7 billion, and he went down there with a fishing boat and grabbed some people. So there are many government secrets about Hurricane Katrina. Our listeners probably know about a lot of them, but I'm going to get into one that I'm almost certain very few people know about. So the ones that a lot of people know about is like shock doctrine. I mean, fucking corporations and the government went in there afterwards, after Katrina, and bought up all the property, fucking privatized the schools. There's so many things about what went down in New Orleans in so many ways as to how it was gutted. But this is actually what caused the flooding, because a lot of people think that the flooding, which killed, drowned, suffocated, starved nearly 2,000 people in 2005. Many people think that it was Hurricane Katrina. But Hurricane Katrina had an ally, had a partner in all of those murders. And the only person I've ever seen report on it is Greg Patlist. And so I'll be reading from... I believe it's a chapter from one of his books, so you can grab it. But so I actually have this. Do you remember these are called printed pages? I actually printed something. I had to find a guy with a printer in a back alley. He was just 35 miles from me, and I went and I have the documents. I have the documents, wow. Graham.
That's insane.
So. All right, so here's from the book. 50 years ago, the wetlands around New Orleans would have been, they were like a blanket. They called them prairie marshes because they look like a prairie. Mm-hmm. But then, bad luck, oil was discovered just about anywhere in the prairie where you could punch a hole. And they punched lots of holes. The cheapest way to get out the oil was to drag drilling rigs through the natural bios, then cut huge gashes in the grassland, which floats on the soft delta substrate. Unlike the Rockies, where you can now see the ugly scars of big equipment, the rig trails in Louisiana simply filled with seawater from the Gulf. That salty water increased the grass kill. So now if you fly over this, it doesn't look harmful. It looks like a bunch of channels and things and, a swampland, and it looks kind of beautiful and kind of nice. But that is the remnants of what they did to these marshlands. To get the black gold up, and by the way, Greg Palast at time uses flowery speech, so you'll notice that. Up to the Exxon refinery of Baton Rouge and elsewhere, the crude and gas had to be sucked out with 10,000 miles of pipes. So this beautiful carpet was starved to death and then cut up and dissected with 10,000 miles of canals. Each mile of canal and pipe was sliced out of the land, and so the prairie sank from 1 million cuts and turned into swampland. Were sometimes called wetlands to sound better. The saltwater tides chewed up the remaining land, and the Gulf of Mexico marches 1/4 mile a year closer to New Orleans. Louisiana is simply vanishing. 500 square acres a week disappears to the saltwater. And so as shrimping and fishing is also headed towards doom. After Hurricane Katrina, the rest of America was wondering why those idiots in New Orleans built a city below sea level so close to the sea. Well, when the city was founded, it wasn't anywhere close to the Gulf. Sucking the oil out from under the soft land sped up the sinking. Cypress groves, now poisoned by the salt, gutted by the canals, once provided an impenetrable mat of natural nails too painful for any hurricane surge to cross. A cypress grove can reduce the surge by 6 feet within a mile. Now the cypress are nearly gone. So there were these massive cypress groves and marshes and everything that protected New Orleans from hurricanes for all these years, hundreds of years since settlements first started there, before the times of levees, right? Somehow these settlements succeeded in New Orleans. And the reason was they had this natural protection against hurricane surge. So
it's weird. It's almost like, I don't know how, kind of feel like, I don't know. Do you think like maybe Mother Nature sort of had it figured out before we showed up, or what do you think? No, or I don't know. I can't quite.
Yeah, and people just wouldn't have settled there if New Orleans was getting knocked under the ocean all the time. But back in the day, it wasn't, because it had a natural barrier.
It's the same thing like with the West Coast. So like the indigenous tribes would do controlled burns in areas. So there's always been, they would do it. And it was like, so it wouldn't burn out of control, and they would do controlled burns. And they would also be like, well, we also aren't going to live where we do the controlled burns, but no, we want nice houses with views. We don't care. We deplete the water table to make the soil more dry. And then we just have these crazy fires every year.
Yeah, the combination of living in all these places combined with climate change,
just gutting the land for resources and for money rather than like working with it. This colonialist attitude of we're going to control the land rather than, hey, how do we live with it?
It whenever you see the photos of those houses on the cliffs in California, like collapsing into the sea, it's tough to feel bad for those people. Tough to. Poor guy. I hope he has a GoFundMe to deal with his mansion on stilts collapsing into the sea.
I would always, when I lived in LA and I would drive through the canyons, I'd be like, I'm sure that house has a wonderful view, but I'm like, I would never in 1,000 years live on a house on stilts in a fire and flood zone. Like I would never do that. But, and then anyway.
I mean, listen, my house is incredible. Sure, we could all die from a small family of termites, but yeah, for now, woo!
I built my house on a crocodile farm, but the view is amazing. So I'm going to just lobby my lawmakers to kill all the crocodiles.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
So there's actually state records as to how much of these wetlands were destroyed by these companies, because they had to get approval for a fair amount of it. And so you can actually look at the state records, which, if we had a real mainstream media, they would do this and they'd mention it often. And they'd be like, oh, too bad ExxonMobil killed 2 million acres of the marshes and cypress groves outside New Orleans. ConocoPhillips, 3.3 million acres. Chevron, 2.7 million acres. Shell, 1.3 million acres. And BP, although BP has found other unique ways to destroy New Orleans and the Gulf, BP, a meager 234,000 acres.
But I saw an ad after that oil well blew up that they were spending all this money to clean up. So I think their ad made them look like this. I feel like they're the good guys.
Oh, yeah, they're the good guys. They did bring, I'd say, I'd go as far as to say many paper towels down there. There were a lot of paper towels laid out. And also they did us the honor of taking all the dead oil-covered porpoises off the beaches at night so we wouldn't have to look at them, which is really nice.
I love when somebody causes a problem and then acts like they're the hero for doing what they were ordered to by the courts. to fix.
Well, and these oil companies have learned their lesson. It's not like a giant fiery anus opened up in the Gulf of Mexico like a month ago. It's
Yeah,
not like,
and no. The problem has definitely gotten better. We're good, and we're not like still rolling into. It's not like there's still a month left of hurricane season, so it's all good.
You know, when the Gulf of Mexico is literally catching fire and we can't put it out, is that a problem, or that's probably natural? It's probably natural.
Absolutely. When the oceans emit fire, when water creates fire, when like demonic lava comes out from the ocean, I think that's a totally normal and happy thing. And I'm glad though, you know, and then of course the whole West Coast is on fire. All of this is normal.
But you're missing the positive, Graham. You could go fishing out there, fish, pull them up, fully cooked. All right. Fully cooked, ready to go, right as you grab them.
It's just like it's like a big fish boil.
Yeah. Big crawfish boil. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like a fun thing, like a barbecue, like a beach party.
Absolutely. Most of the boats, people thought the boats were headed out there to try and put the fire out. They were just throwing like potatoes and garlic on. Make it tasty.
They were throwing potatoes and garlic on the fire to make just this good giant fish boil.
Jambalaya.
Yeah.
It was a giant jambalaya.
Giant jambalaya.
That'd be great if that was their technique for PR to deal with it. They were like, stop accusing us of lighting the Gulf of Mexico on fire. We were making big jambalaya.
That idea was thrown about in a marketing meeting. There's no, that has happened. That conversation has absolutely happened. Plans were drawn up and they just scrapped it, or they're waiting for the right time. I don't know which, but that they've talked about it.
Those posters are mocked up. Let's just
say the mock. It's absolutely. There's an ad they ran. I mean, they've shot an ad. There's a bunch of there's a little production company and a couple of actors down in New Orleans that signed some NDAs. It's absolutely, this has all happened.
No doubt. And in order to make sure the actors don't find out what they're promoting, each actor just says like one word. So it just, you're just given a one-word script so that no one can put them together and realize they're promoting killing the planet.
This is like, what did you do for that? I just showed up and said boil, and then I left.
I just said dolphin. I assume it's a good thing. I don't know what's yours. Boil? Oh, what? Why would boil? I wonder why boil and dolphin are together here.
Yeah, I just came in and said natural resources, and they told me to lean my head and say it like that, and so I figured it must be good for the environment.
There's a guy in another room yelling, "Who cares about natural resources?" So those numbers I just read, 3.3 million, 2 million for ExxonMobil, etc. That's just the acreage of wetlands removed with the permission of the state. Those are the narrow cuts authorized by the oil-crazed bureaucracy in New Orleans, which Louisiana is like the worst oil state. They approve fucking anything. But that doesn't count like the salt water moving into those areas, destroying the areas outside of them. And that's what continues to destroy these areas even after these oil companies are done with their slices through the wetlands, the swamplands. The total land loss in Louisiana averages 25,000 acres a year. That translates to 40 square miles of Louisiana disappearing each year. All right, so now we get to this, and we definitely get into a government secret here. This Dr. Van Heerden, who Greg Palast interviewed extensively, and he was the deputy head of the Louisiana State University Hurricane Center, one of America's top experts on hurricanes. And so he
Dr. Hurricane. Is that his name? Is that what everybody calls him?
Yeah, Dr. Hurricane. Yeah. But that had to do with the drinks he had, in which he puked all over a party once. So
he throws great parties. Dr. Hurricane.
He mixes a great hurricane.
Oh my God, he's going to throw a great party.
So they were flying. He and Greg Palast went on this helicopter trip to show off what he was talking about. And Palast says it looked like a secret shortcut through the Delta to the city of New Orleans, a kind of man-made Mississippi River. And that's exactly what it was. Van Heerden's career took a dive, and it began after something he said in July 2005. Now, that was just a month before Hurricane Katrina. He was on a British television documentary about New Orleans, and he said, in a month, this city could be underwater. That was a month before Katrina. 30 days after his warning, every resident was told to get the fuck out. You'd think the professor would get a medal for being right. Tragically right. And he not only predicted New Orleans would drown, he could name the guilty party, and it was not Katrina. The hurricane never touched New Orleans. Did you know that? Katrina swung wide east of the city. Katrina missed the city of New Orleans by 35 miles. The killer was actually the Mississippi River Gulf outlet. It's that Mississippi River channel that he was talking about. It's as Greg Palast says, it's undoubtedly the most boneheaded, deadly, insane project ever built by the Army Corps of Engineers, pressured by oil companies to do it. It's a 76-mile long canal, straight as a gun barrel, right up from the Gulf of Mexico to the heart of New Orleans. It basically, he calls it a hurricane highway. It basically took 75 miles that protected New Orleans from the Gulf and just created a channel straight to it. Until the Army Corps made their crazy gash in the Mississippi Delta 50 years ago, the green, so now he's writing in 2010, so this is now 60 years ago. The green wreath of cypress and mangrove protected New Orleans. It was designed to allow tankers to avoid the Mississippi River's twists and turns and shoot right into New Orleans from the Gulf. It also allowed hurricane waves to shoot straight into New Orleans. Van Heerden explained that if the Corps and the industry had left a natural cypress barrier of just 3 miles, even just 3 miles around the city, the surge caused by Katrina's wind would have gotten lost in the trees, reduced to next to nothing. Quote, Katrina would have been a storm of no note. New Orleans would have been fine. And the Obama administration kind of admitted this because very soon after Katrina, they put a gigantic plug that closed up that canal. President Obama ordered 500,000 tons of rocks dumped in that canal to prevent the next Katrina. Too late, obviously. It was the government's confession written in stones, as Palast says. So yeah, basically, Katrina came towards the city. It missed it by 35 miles. It sent, basically a tidal wave, not quite a tidal wave, but a 16-foot wave surge that was moving faster than a locomotive. And it had a perfect fucking, red carpet welcome mat straight into New Orleans, knocking over the levees. The federal government, Big Shovel and Big Oil knew it before it happened. So here's another thing. It wasn't like no one knew this, which they would still be guilty, but they'd be guilty of kind of like negligence and ignorance. But it's not that they didn't know this. The LSU Hurricane Center had been warning them for a number of years about this funnel, the Hurricane Highway. Who was it they warned? It included just about every government agency with, I said Obama ordered that canal plugged shortly after Katrina, but obviously it was a few years after because Katrina happened under Bush. Who did they warn? It included every government agency with a listed phone, from City Hall to the governor, all the way up to George W. Bush's White House senior staff, whose counsel spoke directly with Van Heerden and then ignored him. One internal Army Corps report Palast had seen warned of, quote, the possibility of catastrophic damage to urban areas by a hurricane surge coming up this waterway, unquote. But, after Hurricane Katrina, they blamed it all on just a freak hurricane. They were like, we couldn't have predicted this. What were you going to say?
Wow. It's like, I was in New Orleans a year after Katrina in 2006. I was working a gig there. And one of the local comics said, will you take me around? Because I want to see this. And we went to, I forget which ward, but maybe the 9th ward. and went down there and you saw it just looked decimated. And literally I had been to Afghanistan. My second trip to Afghanistan had happened several months earlier, where I drove through Kabul, which now is fixed and great. And it's this thriving metropolis after we left.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. That's what I heard.
It's like Dubai now. It's great. It's just fantastic. They got nice hotels.
Yep,
There's a film festival.
They're making islands out in the ocean.
They just had their first female prime minister, so it's really cool. They've done good stuff. And I was like, wow, this is nuts. And there was this organization we donated money to or whatever, and you saw the houses with the levels of water on them, and they would have X's with, and if there was a number that was like how many bodies they found. And I was like, and I started volunteering a couple days because I was just working at nights, obviously at the club. And I'd go gut houses, and I was gutting houses, and it was just like, it was a year after. I'm like, are you kidding me? It was like me, a couple of college kids, some nursing students from Tulane. I'm like, is this really the most America has, the wealthiest country in the history of the world is like a comedian and 6 college kids? This is the best we've got to deal with. Like,
dude, that's how I felt. I know I've already talked about this on the show. That's how I felt right after Superstorm Sandy in New York, where it was like we were volunteering to bring people food that were trapped in high-rise projects, couldn't get out because they're elderly and can't use the stairs. And we were marching up 14 flights to give them bags of food. And you're kind of looking around being like, this is it? Like, it's some out-of-work comedian who came an hour on the subway to hand out these lunches. There's no government response. Like, then there was a government response, but it was fucking pathetic.
It was pathetic. I mean, Brownie did a good job. We know that.
Heck of a job, Brownie. Yeah.
Heck of a job, Brownie. Yeah. Heck of a job.
Well, I always, every time I see someone who's, owns like horses, like dressage horses and shit, I go, I bet that guy could deal with the catastrophic collapse of a city after like an emergency, after like a natural disaster. Like, I bet if there were a volcano that popped up in the middle of New York City, I bet this guy could take his horse knowledge and use it to help people there.
Yes. There's a hurricane that erupts every 600,000 years, and it's near the Dakotas. Volcano. That's right. Volcano. That's, I think, in the Dakotas, and it's the last time it erupted was 640,000 years ago. So we got that coming. Anyway,
it's Yellowstone, I believe.
Yellowstone. That's right. Yeah. Yellowstone.
If it erupts, when it erupts, it'll destroy most of humanity. I mean, just about every living thing on the North America died during the last one. So yeah.
So, but get your tickets to the September 18th show, guys. Get it before the volcano comes.
All right, your segues are better than mine, I think, to the promo for shows. Listen, this may be the last show you're alive for. Come on down.
Last show before the volcano, before the end of days, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, I mean, this is the thing too. I remember when I was working at a casino in New Orleans for like a week, and I volunteered like, I don't know, 3 days out of the 3 or 4 days. And I was just like, I couldn't believe. And then you just see that it was created, and it just seemed like maybe it was a land grab or whatever, but it's just oil. The oil companies, they just are so short-sighted, and then they're never held accountable. And the media is not going to hold them accountable because they all all those companies you listed, they all buy ad time on every major channel. So it's just like, there's no recourse for any of this. Like, how many awful things like has our government created? And we usually talk about stuff in other countries and how we've destroyed other countries, which is awful. But here's New Orleans, this fantastic city that you and I have both been to and performed at, and is one of the most uniquely American places in the country.
Yeah.
And we're all told, that's the other thing that makes me mad. It's another one of these, we were just told, well, they shouldn't have built a city on a swamp. That's what we're told. No, it was built correctly. They had, like you said, all of this natural barriers. Yeah. And no, they gutted it for these oil cocksuckers. Like, when are we going to lynch these fucks? Like,
I have it on my calendar for Tuesday. I don't know what you're doing.
I think I'm getting a haircut.
Oh man.
Yeah, but we'll get to it.
Okay. Maybe next Tuesday. Yeah.
Maybe next Tuesday. You know, Wednesdays are kind of a better Lynch day for me.
I mean, we'd kind of be giving them a haircut, just taking a little more off the top.
That's what we should say it in code, so they can't round us up. We just say we're giving everyone we're giving the oil companies haircuts, free haircuts for the ruling class.
Free haircuts. So let me government secret coming up here in the story. What do you think happens to Van Heerden? Do you think he has statues made of him in New Orleans, in Washington D.C.? Do you think they give him the Medal of Honor?
Oh, probably, sure, right?
Probably. So Van Heerden showed Greg Palast on his computer a full color graphics film, like an animation, recreating the flood. The levees giving out, 80% of the city underwater. So it's like an animation showing everything that happened. Okay, big deal. Katrina happened. They made an animation of it. It wasn't a recreation. It was designed years before Katrina hit. He was trying to show people what was going to happen in New Orleans. But the professors were ignored by the officials, especially because they suggested the oil and gas industry should stop savaging the protected wetlands. So they put the story on the air. Like I said, he did that interview a month before Katrina, and I guess he probably did interviews afterwards as well. That did not exactly boost Van Heerden's standing with LSU. The university's response to Van Heerden's revelations was to bar him from teaching, where he might infect other students with his goddamn curiosity. In November 2009,
I mean, you don't want to infect students with curiosity.
No,
you want them to just get a job and go into debt. That's what you need to teach kids. Do what you're told and get a job and go into debt.
Out of Washington came a memo found in the university files, so it still exists, demanding, Washington, D.C., demanding to know why Van Heerden's, quote, irresponsible behavior is being tolerated, unquote. So basically, this guy's running around with his hair on fire saying, here's what could happen if you don't plug up this channel and stop the oil companies from destroying all the wetlands. And DC is sending memos to LSU saying, why are you allowing this bullshit to go on? As an established and well-respected expert on hurricanes, the university couldn't just fire him. So they pulled the funding from his post. However, the entire Hurricane Center was now a nest of fellow experts who were saying the same thing. So just getting rid of Van Heerden wasn't enough, or defunding him. Louisiana State University shut down its entire Hurricane Center after Katrina.
Well, that makes sense when your whole city's...
Shoot the messenger.
And don't plan for the future. Like, nope, no one, anybody, because if we listened to this guy, maybe this could have been prevented. So to make sure that it doesn't happen in the future, we're going to get rid of any possible research that could prevent this and change things.
Yeah, let's get rid of the entire department that might tell us that this is going to happen again, and that might tell us that we were warned beforehand. So this last little bit in the story, you'll notice, Graham, we've gotten through this whole government secret, and there hasn't been anything involving race, which I think that's wonderful, right? We have a catastrophe that doesn't involve race. I bet
the segment's over. Is that?
It's over. There's no racism. There's no race involved, and I think that's very exciting. In November 2009, a federal judge ruled that the Army Corps' ignoring of the warnings was nothing less than, quote, negligence, myopia, short-sightedness that resulted in a catastrophic loss of human life and property in unprecedented proportions. The judge ordered the federal government to compensate victims and rebuild their homes. Well, what kind of victims were most prevalent in New Orleans? Oh, poor Black victims. Well, Washington had no interest in doing that. So Congress did not go through with compensating the victims. And you could just be like, well, Congress doesn't want to help victims of catastrophes. So that's not race-based. That's just they don't like helping any of these victims. But in fact, when the seawalls failed in West Hampton Dunes, Long Island in 1992, Congress voted for funds to rebuild every destroyed mansion, average value $3.4 million. Even going so far as to haul in hundreds of truckloads of sand to make sure the Wall Street debt vultures did not lose a minute on their private beaches. But in the case of the Ninth Ward, poor, mainly Black and brown people in New Orleans, Congress would have to authorize the payment ordered by the judge, and they had no interest in doing that.
And this was, of course, in 2009 or 10, right? When Obama and the Democrats controlled everything?
Probably, yeah, because this had to go through years of court and stuff. So, yeah, I imagine this is under Obama. And that's also Obama years was when they quietly plugged to that canal without making a big stew about it, so that people wouldn't really notice that it was an admission that canal, the MRGO, ran straight into New Orleans.
It's weird. I mean, I'm just shocked because this is the first time I've heard that rich white people get special treatment in this country. So I'm just taken aback by that.
I didn't mean to hit you with that. Again, I mean, I feel like I should prep you somehow. I didn't mean to hit you with that in this episode, but
like, as Greg Palast, actually, I heard him say this. The Hamptons are not a defensible position. So the ruling elites, we need to they're easy to find. And it's time for some haircuts. So
some deep haircuts.
Some real deep really kind of character changing haircuts.
What's Sweeney Todd doing? Is he retired or...
Is Sweeney still in the barber game?
Yeah, is Sweeney still in his shop? Because I feel like he had one of the best shops. I feel like he really did.
Could he kind of spearhead this haircuts for the powerful campaign we're going to do?
Haircuts for the powerful, let's bring him out of retirement. I'm sure he's old, but I feel like, this is some worthwhile work. This is you do it for the passion, not the money.
We do need to start an online campaign to get Sweetie Todd, back out of retirement. I think it's an important thing. But
so, yeah, to sum this up, it's like, we know exactly what caused thousands of people to drown and many more than that to have their lives destroyed. We know exactly what it was. I met a guy in New Orleans. I was playing there in 2015, 2016, so not that long ago. And there were still houses with the spray paint and the number on the side that had been gutted. And I met a guy who had basically had a long-term girlfriend and the love of his life, and they were getting ready to get married. And then the chaos of Katrina happens, and she's evacuated, and literally people didn't have phones or phone access for weeks, electricity, shit like that. So he didn't actually, and if you only had a certain phone number for someone and they're evacuated to Houston on a bus, and they didn't have any landline to reach you at, you literally, many of these people didn't have emails. There was no way to reach them. And he basically didn't find her for a year or something. And by then it was over. So he, whatever, she'd moved on and shit. So, this guy lost everything and lost the love of his life. There's just so many stories like that. So the number of lives is 2,000 killed, but the number of lives destroyed is just hard to even come to a number. And we know who caused it. We know that the warnings were being raised, that people knew that these oil companies had gutted the barriers to New Orleans, and still we're sitting here today acting like, oh, freak storm, who could have known?
Freak storm. Yeah, and the other thing too, not to mention the economic catastrophe. A lot of people who had like hurricane insurance, and the companies went, no, sorry, we're not paying it. Like, they did everything they were supposed to do. They paid their payments on time, and they still got nothing. They lost their homes. They lost everything. And the insurance didn't pay them a penny. And not to mention just all of the emotional stuff of people getting separated from their homes and having to relocate in some weird part of the country that they weren't used to, or what, all that stuff. I mean, just the economic impact of then the new communities having to take people from that part of the country. And, you know, they didn't have the schools and the resources, and the, you know, they didn't have all, you know, like that happened. It was just like, it was just a catastrophe on so many levels.
And this
now,
is how, and we're going to see it again and again and again. The climate catastrophe is hitting the poor first.
of course,
it will hit the rich, and it is to some degree, you know, knocking over mansion number 2 or whatever, but it's not going to hit them in the same way. I mean, many of the people that stayed in New Orleans during Katrina, or stay there during any hurricane, or are there right now when the power's out and it's 100 degrees and the power may be out for a month, they don't have the money to go anywhere else. They don't have, they can't just roll into a city and buy a new house or buy a new apartment. They were people that live day to day, and or their whole family's there and the whole family supports each other. And so you can't relocate a whole family. So it's like the poor just get destroyed. Their lives get destroyed in these climate catastrophes. And meanwhile, the rich can fly somewhere else. You know, like Ted Cruz flying to Cancun during the power outage in Texas, during the middle of winter. So I mean, the rich will fly away to other places and be fine, at least during some of this. And the poor get hit first.
Well, this is, I mean, you're seeing stuff like this in Miami, in South Florida, where like there's a neighborhood, I think it's maybe Little Havana or something, that's sort of up on a hill, and the rich are coming in and gentrifying and buying people out because the coastlines are, the sea levels are rising so bad. I had friends who were telling me they moved away last year from Miami because they had a nice condo right on the beach. And they said, look, they're like, I saw it happen in real time. The first year the water came up to this much in the fence, the wall, the retaining wall. Then this is year 2, year 3, it came to the top, year 4, it spilled over into the backyard. Like, what they just saw it in real time. And you've got the dipshit Army Corps of Engineers that were tasked to build a seawall around Miami. They just scrapped that plan, thankfully, because it's the typical idiot Army Corps of Engineers are fucking up. They didn't realize that Florida is limestone. Like, it's where, so the water, a wall's not going to prevent the water from coming in. It's just going to come through the land, the soil.
Right.
So,
right.
There's 3 million people in South Florida. Eventually, and I just did a story on it like last month, that they're going to have to evacuate South Florida. That's just from rising sea levels. That's not even another chaotic hurricane, which Florida gets hit by the hurricanes all the time. So what are we going to do? Where are these people going to go?
And I was reading some article where someone basically did an investigative piece where they pretended like they were buying real estate or wanted to buy a nice condo in Miami. And so they went to these real estate brokers, many of them, they went to several, to basically see what they would say about the flooding that was happening. And each of them were just like, oh yeah, flooding was a bit of an issue, but they've solved that. We're really fine. They're putting in, seawalls and things like that. And so they're selling, like, the real estate market in Miami is doing fine because a combination of lies and that the rich will buy something for a year and then get rid of it. So they're not really worried. But yeah, Florida's absolutely, I mean, so much of Florida is going underwater. By the way, I know you, you review films and things. I watched on, it's been a complete bomb apparently, but I watched on HBO streaming. It came out in theaters at the same time, the Hugh Jackman movie Reminiscence.
That's bad.
Which is, it's an awful movie, but it takes place in Miami after climate change has basically flooded all of Miami, and it's like Venice. And so they're living on like boats or they live in buildings and then they take boats between doors. And most of them work at night because the sun is too unbearable to work during the day. So they basically shifted, and the whole community just exists at night, and then they sleep during the day. And it's, to me, it's really fascinating. Like, although it's a terrible movie, it's like, oh yeah, we're going to have more and more of these movies where they just accept that dystopia is coming or is here. And that's not even the point of the movie. That is a side note. The point of the movie is like he fell in love with this girl and he needs to look into her memories about a drug deal. And so it's like, I love that like dystopian society is just like a side note. It's like, oh yeah, he also had a dog that died. Oh yeah, we're living in a fucking dystopian hellhole, but you know, he loves this girl over here who he lost. And like,
yeah. I don't like the other thing too. And it's just sort of like, it also has this like, look, it might not be great, but we'll get through it. Like, no,
yeah.
what are you talking about?
Yeah,
Like,
we'll go back. Exactly. We'll go back to worrying about the things we're worrying about now. We'll just have to take a boat to work in the morning.
yeah, we can't go out during the day because the sun will burn us. Like that's, and even their depiction again, when I saw that movie, I had already learned about the limestone. I was like, so even their depiction of these massive, like 200-foot seawalls that are keeping Florida, I'm like, that's even not accurate. Florida will be underwater. And what happened with that condo collapsing was largely due to erosion from rising sea levels. And again, my friends that lived in South Florida had a condo and they were like, we're leaving. And they had friends and, friends of theirs in the building that wanted to buy it. And they were telling them, don't buy this. It's going to be bad. They're like, we're arguing, like, just don't, you're our friends. You guys are going to have to leave here soon. And the people finally like said, oh God, you're out. Come on. And they literally put money on the table and they're like, okay. And then a year later, they just got a note after that condo collapsed. They got up, the homeowners association got a letter from the city saying you have to put all these millions of investments back into seawalls and rebar because the thing is getting eroded because it's limestone. So it's reeking up like this. So the foundations of these buildings are eroding because water is very corrosive. Salt water is even more corrosive.
Yeah.
And it's like more of these buildings are just going to collapse.
And this actually fits exactly with our story. These things are known. There are experts running around trying to tell people these things. And our government, along with local governments, like, of course, Florida, which has banned saying the words climate change or climate catastrophe, they are completely ignoring all of these experts and probably similar to our story, working to defund them and things like that. But people want to put their heads in the sand, and that would be the time for our government to step in and go, look, you can't put your heads in the sand. We got to deal with this. And instead, the government is mostly going along with, yeah, let's stick our heads in the sand and act like this is going to be fine. A personal example, my parents had a timeshare in Deltaville, Virginia. And Deltaville is a nice little community. It's, small. It's a lot of retirees and stuff. But the water is rising, and my father was looking at like topographical maps and realizing that 10 years from now, these places are all going to be underwater, or at the very least, the storm surges are going to be so terrible that no one's going to live there. And he tried to bring it to like whatever the housing group is that looks after things in the community. And he tried to like give them a presentation, and fucking no one wanted to hear it. Like,
no. And then, so the governments aren't planning ahead, like all this stuff. I mean, look, man, it's in, and there's much to be critical of Al Gore for, but his sequel to An Inconvenient Truth, More Inconvenient Truths, or whatever it's called.
Super duper inconvenient truth.
Double secret.
Inconvenient truth, The Vengeance, or whatever it was.
The Reckoning.
The Reckoning. Inconvenient Truth, The Last Days. Yeah.
He talked about how in the first Inconvenient Truth, he said there's going to be flooding at the World Trade Center.
I'm looking for the next one. It's going to be a prequel where they use CGI to like de-age him and they make him young again. And it's like Inconvenient Truth, the early days, or
before Inconvenient Truth beginnings, or whatever.
They're going to shrink his head back down to a normal human size. And yeah.
So he talks about how he predicted in that movie there's going to be flooding in New York and World Trade Center, and it already happened. I think it was Hurricane Sandy when that happened. And now here we are again. I'm watching photos of like subway stations just flooded in New York.
Yep.
And like, and then again, the homeowners association in this city in Virginia that your father speak to, they just like don't want to hear it. Like, what is it going to take? Like, you're in your house and it starts to float away. Is that when you're going to go, hey, we should do something? And like you say, because the government is so complicit, the most we've got is there's going to be green energy in this infrastructure bill. To what degree? Like, what is this?
Yeah, no, well, he's putting in charging stations for the cars. So as we're fleeing, as our cities are going underwater, we can drive a little bit further to the charging station. The more charging stations we can drive further as we're escaping.
Well, that's good. As an electric vehicle owner, Liam, makes me very happy that I'll be able to charge up before I flee.
My favorite was when, I don't know if we mentioned this on the show before, but when there was some sort of hurricane shit going down in Florida and they were all trying to evacuate. And then Elon Musk from his master control switch announced that he was elongating the battery life on like all the cars so that people could get out of town. And everybody went, wait a second, you have the ability to elongate all the battery life? And like, everyone was like, what the fuck?
Well, it's just like, it's like this whole pandemic, we've seen shit like that where it's like, we don't have money. We don't have money for any, how are we going to pay for it? Oh, well, we got trillions of dollars just in stimulus. We could give everybody free college and end homelessness and stop these, wars and give everybody healthcare.
Turns out we have whole warehouses of cash sitting here. That's just right there. So we could use that stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. I think, is that it? Or is there more horror coming out of
That's really all I got. That's all I got. There is more government secrets about. I might do. It's possible I'll do one next week on more government secrets about New Orleans, but about what's happening right now in New Orleans. But we'll see.
Could be a government secrets multi-episode. Don't know.
Don't bet the bank on it.
Let's just see if Graham can remember the episode number.
Everyone put in your bets over under for when Graham realizes all is lost next week.
What over under on when you'll say something and then you'll stop talking and I'm always just like frozen, just like.
Yeah, I thought maybe your feet had frozen at one point because you were just sitting there.
Just my soul. My soul had frozen. My soul had frozen up. I stopped. There was no more information to go from my soul to my brain. It was over. My soul was going, well, maybe that big volcano might be nice because at least it'll be quick.
It's true.
It won't be slow.
I'm rooting big volcano 2024. That's who I'm voting for.
Oh God.
I believe it's called a caldera. Caldera 2024.
Caldera 2024. Speaking of big volcanoes, folks, come for the hot lava of comedy that is the Government Secrets live show, September 18th, 3:00. It's an afternoon show at the gorgeous Dynasty Typewriter Theater in Los Angeles, where they are you got to have either proof of negative COVID test or vaccine. And let's get mad at those things rather than deal with climate change. So let's argue about that, which has been a great use of time. So come to the show, go to GrahamElwood.com or LeeCamp.com to buy tickets for those, right?
Yeah. And I can't remember if we'll at least have an audio version. Maybe it'll be a premium audio version. I don't know, but we'll have something.
We will the audio will be recorded. I don't think there's going to be video. I was talking about that and we'd have to hire people. And do we want to spend money?
Yeah, and we'd have to hire beautiful people to replace us. So.
Yeah, we can't use ourselves. I mean, it's already ugly enough. This is why
we listen. I've seen Instagram. We need 2 14-year-old girls.
Well, I mean, my face is why I got demonetized. So
they were like, "You're not 14 at all.
You're not. You can't shuffle dance. You're not cute." So yeah, that's check it out. Yeah, go see our show and then go see Ron Placone and I And our little 3-city tour was 25 cities or 22. Now it's
man, that blows. Sorry.
it sucks. What are you gonna do, man? I mean, it sucks, but you put it in perspective with what people are going through right now with this hurricane in this country, Afghanistan, whatever. It's just
that's very true. And also, you can look on the bright side. We never found a New York venue, so you don't have to cancel that one.
I was very happy we don't have to cancel the New York venue. That was great. So
I was so happy New York didn't work out for a government secrets that I didn't have to cancel it, and it was very exciting.
It was exciting to not have to also make other announcements about another venue for another show that's being canceled. So that is the bright side. But come see us live, you guys. Come see Ron and I September 11th in San Francisco, the 12th in Sacramento, the 15th in Burbank, and September 18th, Gov Seeks live from Dynasty Typewriter in Los Angeles. I will be bringing the sound effects machine to the show.
Good.
So
Good. It sucks that thing's the size of like a minivan, your sound effects machine.
I know.
So,
it's expensive.
I do see that. I don't know how I feel about newbies and amateurs being on the show. I see a guy named Jimmy Dore will be opening. Is that correct?
I think you were gonna be able to do that. I know you want to do stand up there too, right?
Well, not if it has to be next to amateurs like Jimmy Dore. Yeah, no, I might do a little stand up before we start.
Yeah, Jimmy does some skits, you do some skits, and then I'll roll in my flip flops.
With wet hair and a surfboard.
With wet hair and a surfboard under my arm, and we'll do the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's gonna be a fun show.
Cool, man. I'm excited. There's a new Redacted tonight. Everybody can check out tonight. That's it'll be up soon at leecamp.com. And I highly recommend that people check out my interview with Steven Donziger that just came out yesterday. It's pretty incredible. Obviously, most people know who he is now. Chevron's political prisoner, locked in his apartment in New York City for 2 years. But we bring in new facets of the case. I show leaked video, actually internal Chevron video showing them unable to find clean areas in Ecuador and laughing about how they've done this toxic dumping. It's all hilarious to them. So that's all in the interview. And that's at portable.tv. You can scroll down to the Redacted Tonight tab, or it's at leecamp.com.
Check it out, ladies and gentlemen. And we will be doing, we'll be doing government secrets next Friday, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Probably same time.
Yeah.
That would be the 10th. Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
And then the week after that, folks, if you want a government secrets, you got to come to Los Angeles and listen to it live. All right, dude. Well, this was exciting as always. Thank you for restoring my hope in humanity.
I feel like I restore it as I crush it. So it's a zero-sum game. I'm like putting out the fire while I'm knocking the embers around everywhere else.
It is. It's sort of like a whack-a-mole in terms of my faith in humanity. So, well, you have a wonderful weekly camp, and we will see you next week. And then in 2 weeks, we will see you in person. Be great to see you in person, dude.
That's the hope, man. It's been like 2 years since I've seen you. It'll be nice.
Holy shit. Has it been 2 years? Yes.
Dude, I mean, yeah, like 6 months before the pandemic began. Yeah.
That's right. You came to LA or something?
Yeah, we played Ventura together?
Yeah, that's right. That's the last time we saw each other. Holy shit. Yeah.
It's probably over 2 years. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm a half a foot shorter.
Are you? I'm no longer black. So I know that's going to come as a shock. But...
Well, whatever, dude. I support you in whatever life you've chosen. You know what I mean? So love is love.
All right, man. See you later.
Later. Hey, everybody. Ron Placone and I had to cancel all of our October tour dates because of COVID, the Delta variant, and all that. But we still have shows in California. Ron and I are doing San Francisco September 11th, Sacramento September 12th, Burbank September 15th, and Lee Camp and I are doing live Government Secrets September 18th in Los Angeles. All those tour dates are at grahamelwood.com. All of the venues are requiring proof of vaccination. Dynasty Typewriter on the 18th is also saying you can do negative COVID tests, but check with the venues for what their policies are. I have no control over those policies. Go to grahamelwood.com. Sorry we can't come. This sucks. We'll be back hopefully next year. But if you're in California or want to make the trip, come out to these shows. These are probably the only shows we're going to do this year. Thank you.